What is an odd behavior of yours you think only you do? Story 1. I got my dog Snoopy when I was 10 years old, and ever since he was a puppy, he had this weird love for lettuce. He would go absolutely nuts for it, and so whenever I had a sandwich or a burger, I would give him some of my lettuce. Over the years, it became a ritual that whenever I prepared any food that involved lettuce for myself, I would grab extra lettuce for him so I could toss it to him as I ate. He passed away 4 years ago after almost 17 years together, but I still find myself grabbing that bit of extra lettuce for him. I feel like I'm probably the only person in the world that grabs more lettuce than they need for something and then eat it while remembering his best friend that passed. That is so sweet. And having a dog named Snoopy. I remember reading Peanuts growing up. That is so precious. Reading it, there are a lot of people that still continue old habits in remembrance of old friends. I think this person feels they're the only one that does it because this relationship was so personal for them. It's good that it's a healthy habit. We can always do with eating more vegetables and fruit in our lives. I'm glad this person had 17 good years with a good friend. Story 2. I have hyperhidrosis, fancy word for sweating a lot, and my t-shirts are constantly sticking to my armpits. To unstick them, I just lift my elbows up and down a time or three. Basically, I flap my arms like a chicken. Most of the time, I don't even realize I'm doing it. Imagine having a conversation with someone you've never met and they randomly start flapping like a chicken out of the blue and act like nothing just happened with no explanation. Edit. Now I know the meaning of RIP inbox. I don't have time to read through all of your comments today, but for everyone giving advice and suggestions, thank you. Also, thanks for the awards. This person must have had this condition for a long time to have something like that be second nature to him. To be able to do that kind of action and not even think about it while doing your everyday tasks or talking to someone can probably be jarring for the other person. I wonder how many times this person has been asked about it. Have there been a lot of people who are just too polite or think they're going to be rude or offensive if they ask him about this behavior? Story 3. When at the library or bookstore, I sometimes open a book I know I will read at some point, but not read right now, and read a random line at a random page. Then maybe years later, I'll read the book, and when I get to that line that I forgot all about and get the most powerful feeling of deja vu, I'll remember what the world felt like, smelt like, the sensation and feelings I had while reading that one line. It's like little gifts of memories to future me floating around in various books. I've done this before. I've been in a bookstore and picked up a random book, read a line, and put it back. Then I'll get this amazing sensation of being back at that bookstore when I read that book later. It's an amazing sensation. It's really interesting how our brains work like that. I think it's a great way to encourage yourself to read more. You've got these little treasures stored away and you want to unlock them by reading as many books as you can. It's really cool. Story 4. Sometimes I take a huge intake of breath, as if I've been stuck underwater for longer than I'm comfortable and can finally breathe again. It scares the crap out of my friends as I'm usually quiet for several minutes, and then suddenly I'm practically screaming. Just tell people that I forgot to breathe. I rarely realize I've done it too. It just happens. I also randomly do one hiccup, sometimes mid-sentence, and I'll continue my statement without letting the hiccup distract me. Story 5. I'll occasionally reread sections of a book where nothing much happens, but the characters are just chilling. It's almost like visiting friends. One of my favorite parts in all of the Harry Potter series is when Harry gets 2 weeks alone in Diagon Alley in Prisoner. Nothing happens. I just wish I could experience that myself. Story 6. Sometimes when I get bored, I explain modern things to Benjamin Franklin, music I listen to or how my phone works, etc. Sometimes I go even further back to explain it to Socrates or a caveman. Sometimes it's philosophical, sometimes it's just stupid. I don't know why I do it, but it's very entertaining. I used to do something like that on car trips. Only I'd pick a time period and imagine what a philosopher, monk, or otherwise educated person from that era would be able to figure out about what I was seeing. I've done something similar. I think a lot of people have imagined talking to someone they probably like to meet, or probably someone they wish they had met that has passed away that they couldn't talk to anymore. There's also something similar in programming. If you're stuck on a problem, you get a rubber ducky like you use in the bathtub, and you explain the problem to the rubber ducky. Usually by explaining the problem you're stuck on to the rubber ducky, you'll automatically arrive at the solution yourself. Story 7. I get weird compulsions that I need to touch between my pinky fingers or touch my armpit. It's more like a tickling sensation that builds until I have to relieve it by touching it. I have no idea what causes this, and I haven't heard of anyone else that has to do this. Maybe some form of mild OCD? Edit. Frequency of the sensation is constant. Every few seconds, though, the intensity of the feeling comes in waves. Story 8. In my head, I make a plan to rob any business I enter. I make note of security, cameras, and employees. I think about what part of town I'm in and try to estimate what the police response time would be and possible escape routes and so on. I never do it, of course. It's just a mental exercise. I made the mistake of telling my wife about it, and now when we go out, she notices and tracks my eyes and says, "Stop that. You're so weird." Story 9. I have conversations with myself out loud, and I stare intently at one spot when I'm thinking. I also talk with inanimate objects, and I catch myself cocking my head to the side like a dog when I'm confused. Of note, they don't talk back to me. I just have one-sided conversations with the objects. Kind of like how Archer talks to Krieger in Krieger's first few appearances before they found a voice actor for him. That's kind of how I started practicing to do voice acting. I just had conversations. I'd listen to what I was saying, and I would try to do it in different styles or different voices. That's kind of what led me to try and start pursuing this full time. I think there are a lot of voice actors who actually talk to themselves in the car on their way to a gig. Patton Oswalt had a bit in his comedy routine where he talks about that. Story 10. Every time I shift into neutral, I wiggle the stick back and forth a bit as a sanity check. Edit. So apparently this is so normal someone gave me gold, so thanks for that. Also, it's a little terrifying to open Reddit in the morning and see 110 messages and think to yourself, hell, what did I type at 2 a.m.? Story 11. My alarm is set to 7 a.m. I can't remember when I last heard it go off because I wake up at around 6:15 and spend some time on my phone before resetting my alarm and getting in the shower before 7 a.m. My alarm is set to 7 a.m. I can't remember when I last heard it go off because I woke up at around 7:30. Story 12. If I'm a passenger on a long car journey, I pretend there's a running man at the side of the road who can't touch the ground, and I imagine it in full detail. Jumps to that tree, somersaults down, and runs along the barrier, jumps, pushes off the stop sign and onto the phone box, and so on. That sounds like a good mental exercise. It would probably be a big challenge when you're driving along a desert road and there's hardly anything to jump across or jump onto. I would have to do something on trips like this because I was notorious for getting motion sickness when I was in a car. I could not read for anything. Car trips for me were really boring. Story 13. Using random number generator apps to dictate how I set my daily to-do lists. When I can't decide between two things, I assign them random numbers, like 68 and 14, or call them left and right, and have someone pick one over the other. Whatever they choose, I go for that thing. When I'm alone, I use an RNG or coin instead. So not exactly, but same idea, I suppose? Story 14. I throw up gang signs at my dog. Don't know why it started, but I get a laugh out of it, and my dog just likes the attention. I sing with my cat, and he responds when I pause. Somebody once told me the world is gonna meow. I ain't the sharpest tool in the meow. I find it hilarious. He also likes the attention. Story 15. After I stopped chewing on my nails, I needed a new thing for when I'm nervous, preferably something discreet. So I started pressing my nails into the side of my knuckles and then kind of pressing the hurting spot. Somehow this pain feels extremely relaxing to me. Also, it helps me think when I can't concentrate. I find I have to do something with my hands to try and help me not bite my nails when I'm nervous. I sometimes don't succeed in not biting my nails, but there are a few tricks I have. If I haven't trimmed my nails in a little bit, I'll try and bend my nails with my thumb. It's not painful, and the sensation helps me relax and forget what I was nervous about. Story 16. I walk fast. When it's a crowded place, I use hand gestures whenever another person gets in my way to tell them where I will go. Like I point to the left and they automatically move to the right without any awkwardness. It works more often than I expected, and people tend to follow such unexpected gestures unconsciously. Story 17. When I'm watching a movie or TV series and something bad happens to a character I really like, I can't handle him being sad or distraught, so I stopped watching it. It's a real problem. I have to force myself to continue, because if I wouldn't watch anything until the end. It's been like that since I was a kid. Story 18. When I wake up for work, sometimes I get the good chills about certain things. Like the AC console in my car might look like a cockpit, and it sends good chills down my spine. It's like the time before I have to be at work is a cozy little mini time. There's no way in hell I can explain this in words. I've always called it the morning weird. Man, I hope there's someone else out there that knows what I'm talking about. I think I've felt this before. I have gotten what could be described as chills but it's for something that I'm looking forward to, or I'm excited about something. It could be construed as a bad feeling, but it actually feels good. I know what he's talking about. I like the way he calls it, though. I like the morning weird. It's pretty cool. Story 19. When I'm alone sometimes, I will shriek and beg for my life under my breath as if I'm being unalived in order to give myself a cheap chuckle. So I'll be in the bathroom going, "No, God, don't let this happen. Don't let this happen. He's stabbing me. I don't want to be unalive. Our Father who art in heaven," and just laugh my butt off. Edit. Woke up to a 91 next to my name and immediately thought, what did I do? Also, thank you for the gold. Story 20. I make a valley out of pillows and blankets and sleep in the middle so I can hug something while lying on either side. Edit. Thank you for all the awards and the attention. I absolutely loved the wholesome conversations about pets and pillows that unfolds below. Story 21. When my girlfriend gets home, I often pretend to be unalive. She then feigns shock and horror until I ultimately succumb to a fit of laughter. I try to be as inventive as possible with positioning and stuff, and I'm well aware that I could become the man who cried wolf one day. Some guys surprise their girlfriend with flowers when they get home. Not this guy, but I'll give him big points for creativity. I wonder how creative he's gotten some of these positions to be. I wonder if she's laughed out loud while coming home with whatever position he's gotten himself into. This could be really funny. Story 22. Constantly, realistically I do this hourly, relive specific moments from my past. I can imagine a conversation that I had 8 years ago and react physically in the present by saying the words I would have said then, or move my body in the same way as I do in the memory. Story 23. I can only have the volume on any stereo set to an odd number. If someone sets it or changes it to an even, I will discreetly change it back to an odd. Sometimes I have to invent a situation that requires me to use the remote or touch the stereo. Story 24. Sometimes when I'm listening to music, I play a game where I tap my fingers to the syllables. If the sentence ends at the pinky or the thumb, I win. If not, I must continue until it ends up at one of them. Now that's interesting. I've played synthesizers in the past, so I'll try to play along with any synth parts I hear in a song. I'll try to figure out what fingering is the right one to use to play the certain passage I'm hearing. Or I'll just tap along with the rhythm by my fingers. I've never played a game at it like this guy. Story 25. Habit that I've had since childhood. I play with my ears, especially when they're cold. I fold them and scrunch them and can fit them into the ear canal until they unfold and pop back into form. Story 26. If I accidentally hit my head on something when I was little, I'd pretend to be knocked out for at least 10 minutes on the floor and then slowly get up when I'd realize nobody was going to indulge my dramatic butt. Story 27. Sometimes I wonder if there's actually people who can see into your mind, so I start thinking about really interesting things. So if there is, they won't think I'm boring. This isn't the only person to do this. I've thought about that too. I've wondered if someone was able to look into my mind, what would they think about what I was thinking at that point? I think I'd just start singing a song in my head or something. Try to be completely innocent. Story 28. I say things to myself to break my train of thought, like I love you, or I'm sorry, or you got this, just to keep myself going on the right path. Probably be weird if someone walked in on me trying to motivate myself out loud. Story 29. Talking to myself in gibberish when I'm doing something as though I were explaining what I'm doing. I imagined a guy doing the dishes and talking like someone from The Sims. Laughed my butt off. Story 30. I hear noises in multiples of 8. Not that I hear any sound 8 times, but if there's a noise that repeats a bunch of times, I hear it in my head again and count it using 8s. That sounds a little OCD. It sounds like a way someone tried to memorize the multiples of 8 when they were young, and the habit just stuck. I wonder if anyone else has tried to do something to themselves to be able to memorize something for school, and the habit just still stuck with them. I still have to repeat the 9s tables to myself. Story 31. Shake my butt when I'm lying in bed. Hey, you should meet my roommate. I wake up every morning to him just fast asleep but vigorously shaking his butt. Story 32. Each day when I come home from work, I say to my cat Bruce Wayne, "Hi honey, I'm home. Did you do your taxes?" Aw. Story 33. I wiggle my right foot really fast when I'm falling asleep. Never be lonely anymore. I have found my brothers and sisters. I'm sure we all have our rituals when we're trying to get to sleep. Some people usually just breathe in and out and try to be calm. This is the first I've heard of someone doing something really fast. Maybe they're just trying to tire out their body one part at a time. Do you think anybody shakes their head back and forth really fast when they're trying to fall asleep? Story 34. I tap every time a dashed line goes past the car. It's like a perpetual game of Guitar Hero. Story 35. Every time I bend over to pick something up, I pretend I just unknowingly dodged a bullet from some faraway sniper trying to take me out. Story 36. I count the toilet paper squares, ensuring there's exactly 4 or 8 before I tear it off to wipe. This one sounds like it could have started off in a practical way, like someone had to be sure they had the right amount of toilet paper to be able to have proper protection when they wipe. Or they also needed to conserve toilet paper and they only needed the right amount, just the right amount, so they counted it out. Conservation carries over into the rest of your life, I guess. Story 37. I spin in circles and think about things, but like as an activity. I spent an hour plus just spinning and thinking about things that don't matter on multiple occasions. Story 38. When a page is taking a long time to load on my laptop, I rotate my index finger clockwise and it makes me feel like it makes the page loads faster. Story 39. When I'm at home, I eat the kernely bits of popcorn first and save the soft parts for the end. I don't know where this came from, but I can't seem to stop. It sounds like it came from the fact that you want to get the stuff that's hard to do out of the way so you can have all the good stuff to yourself to finish off with. I could understand that. I don't know of anyone who likes to end up with the crunchy bits of popcorn that could damage their teeth. Nothing wrong with popcorn being a little crunchy, but not so much that they warrant a dentist visit. Story 40. It's kind of weird, but I like to rub my feet against each other under the covers. It calms me down and it helps me fall asleep. Story 41. I eat fried chicken and other greasy goods while wearing latex gloves. This applies only at home. Story 42. I make sure to make a splash noise when I pee to make sure I'm not sleeping and peeing the bed. I don't know if anyone else has felt this, but I've had vivid dreams of having to go to the bathroom. When I wake up, I absolutely make sure that I didn't just let loose in bed. I think those dreams are telling me I need to get up and use the bathroom. So far, there have been no accidents, thankfully. Story 43. I've noticed I often sniff when I enter a room so I don't scare people by just talking out of nowhere. Story 44. I rub the tip of my nose, and after a while it starts to feel really nice, and I get a mild sensation not unlike a climax. Story 45. I blow on my ice cream to cool it off? I'm not really sure. I wasn't even aware I was doing something weird until my girlfriend noticed and said, "You know that's not hot, right?" That is unusual. Maybe you're not trying to cool it off, but really warm it up. I could imagine blowing on my ice cream to kind of warm it up a bit if it's frozen really solid. I know I can get impatient when I get my ice cream right out of the freezer. It can still be too hard when I try to dive in with a spoon, but I really want it to be a little bit softer so I can enjoy the texture. I don't want to feel like I'm eating ice cubes. Story 46. I have to blink an even number of times, and most of the time that's not enough. I have to stop what I'm doing to keep on blinking until my mind is pleased with the right amount of even times I've blinked. Story 47. In the shower, I slowly rotate to keep myself evenly warm. I do it unconsciously now, like a rotisserie chicken. Story 48. Sometimes I spell a word in my head over and over until it seems like nonsense. I've heard of people saying a word over and over in their head until it seems like nonsense. I've never heard of spelling a word. For some reason, I feel that doing this in English would be a lot quicker than just saying a word over and over. English has some weird spellings to begin with. Just spelling a word once or twice will make you realize how weird some words can be spelled. Story 49. I discreetly wave my right hand when I'm in front of sliding doors like a Jedi Knight to open them. Well, that's something a lot of people do. We'll wave our hand to try and get something to open up at the right time to make us feel powerful. We'll try to point at a stoplight to make it change right at the right time. I think we want some kind of control in our lives, or we want to feel like we have control. I've done this too. Story 50. I work at a college as a janitor, and sometimes I'll see a math problem and just solve it. Story 51. I make weird noises and gestures when I think of no one else. Story 52. Whenever someone coughs, I have the urge to cough as well. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.